Alright, so today I'm going to be working on a new hay rack here. I'd say it's probably time for a new one, seeing as the goats have smashed all of this out. So I figured I'd make a quick video showing kind of how I make these, which you can make them for basically free. You can find some wood pallets. So I got some new pallets sitting over there, and let's put one together here. I just cleaned the barn out. That's what this big pile here is. Kind of had to just dump it out here in front of the barn. I can't get a machine in here because it's been too cold, because I can't get the fence down. So that's why that's sitting there. So right now this feeder is upside down, so what I like to do is I like to V it so that the hay falls down to the bottom. This would be the bottom, and then you have your opening at the top here. So this would obviously be a leg here on the side, and then this is the feeder where they'd eat out of. I always like to try to pick pallets that have, you know, a decent gap where they can get their nose in there, but also not too big so that they get their horn stuck and get their whole head in there, and then you end up having to pull them out all the time. So I always like to try to find the pallets with, you know, probably a 3-inch gap. So I always just start on the outside here. That's where I put my first screw in here to hold it. And then I always just kind of run it to the middle somewhere. It doesn't have to be perfect, but that's close enough there. So what I'll do to hold these two pieces together is the pallet slats on, this would be the leg side here. I usually just kind of run some small screws into the boards of the other pallet. So you do something like here, and then just kind of keep going down the line and keep running more. Right, again, so this is the inside of the feeder here. I always like to cut the pallet slats, the boards off on the inside, because sometimes the hay doesn't make it to the outside to where the goats are actually eating from, if that makes any sense. Alright, so this right here is the finished product, basically. You can see where we cut the pallet slats out from the inside, so that way the hay doesn't get hung up on those. And then you still have your slats on the outside, which is where they stick their nose in to eat the hay. And then the V shape obviously makes it so that the hay falls down to the bottom and they can get to all of it. So sometimes you get these pallets that are a little beat up. Like this one I gotta put a screw in somehow, but I try just to find the best ones I can for what I need, you know, ones with good gaps like I was saying. And also with those boards we cut out of the middle, I like to save those. You know, sometimes the goats will, you know, hit these and break them apart and stuff, and then you kind of got a spare one. That's the perfect length you need if you got to replace it. So I'm gonna save these, but I'm gonna go get a hay bale, put it in there, and see if these goats come over and eat. So yeah, that's how I make a hay feeder for my goats. Probably work with sheep too. Cows will probably knock it over, probably too big, but anything small that eats hay, this is how I do it. So I always just found it as a cheap way to feed out hay without throwing it on the ground, you know, wasting so much of it. It's also cheap, or basically free. You can get a lot of pallets at hardware stores or whoever gives them away. Even if you do have to buy them, sometimes they're only, you know, a couple dollars. And then things like screws and stuff probably have laying around. So I've made these longer too. Sometimes I'll put you know, 3 pallets together and go 3 long, where this one's only 1 long, kind of like the inside of the barn here. I'll show you. So I have 2 of these in the inside of the barn, one over there and one here, that I just tied to the posts for the holding the rafters up. So I guess these are only 2 wide, so these are 8 feet long, and I have 2 of them. So I got these 2 feeders inside, and then obviously the ones outside. I like to feed them outside too, because I have kind of a lot of goats. Lets them all eat, let them get some fresh air too. So hopefully I explained that well enough. It's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Only needs 4 pallets if you're making one of those. So I'm gonna clean my tools up and then go work on something else.